take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
CannabisRadio.com presents The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is great, man.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-token lovers of liberty. It is Friday, March 18th, 2016, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We made it to the weekend. So glad you could be here with us. It's been an exciting week coming to you from beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. It's sunny and it's in the upper 80s outside. I'm inside here at Cannabis Radio headquarters in Scottsdale at the base of Camelback Mountain. It's quite a beautiful view. Today I watched a couple of bunny rabbits playing around on the front yard. It was very, very cute. And speaking of very, very cute, today is a day for celebration. For today marks the 1-year anniversary that little Alexis Bortell has gone seizure free. That's right, this little girl from Texas who had to leave her home state because of her epilepsy, and Texas's CBD-only law doesn't work for her. She had to move her family to Colorado where she could get some THC to go with her CBD, and thanks to that, it has been 1 year as of today since little Alexis Bortell had a seizure. So we're going to celebrate that today by bringing you a replay of Alexis Bortell at the Southwest Cannabis Conference. I've got my interview with her. We'll play that at 1:30 in our cannabis community chat. And then for the Radical Rant, we'll turn things over to Alexis and her keynote speech at that conference that brought down the house. So stay tuned for that. We're celebrating Alexis Bortell 1 year seizure free today. But also on the show today, we're going to talk a little bit about the cannabis industry and race. And there's been a great piece that's up on BuzzFeed about the whitewashing of the green rush. Now, Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow, has also addressed this topic, calling for us to question why so many black people went to prison during the war on drugs. And now that it's legal, we are putting all these barriers in front of black people who want to get involved in the legal market. We'll take a look at that in our Cannabis Chronicles today, coming right after our drug war data mining. Actually, we're not going to do behind the headlines today. I swapped things up a little bit. In drug war data mining, we're going to take a look at a real estate company that has created what they call the Marijuana Enthusiasm Index that ranks the states based on how much enthusiasm the people of that state have for marijuana. Listen in and we'll find out where the legal marijuana states hit on that list and what is the least enthusiastic state for marijuana in the United States. Is it your state? We'll find out when we get to our drug war data mining. But that comes right after our cannabis radio news for today. And in the news, we've got marijuana sales tax figures coming out of the state of Oregon that have blown away expectations. We look at a little town in Oregon called Damascus, whose call for disincorporation may have an unintended consequence the residents never thought of. New Orleans City Council has moved to expand the decriminalization of marijuana under city ordinance. We've got to look at Fairbanks, Alaska, working on their first marijuana business licenses. And we've got interesting science news for you from Mowgli Holmes, who's working on cataloging the genome for cannabis. That's right, cannabis DNA, mapping it out. And another update from Pennsylvania, this time on their passage of an industrial hemp law. All that is coming up on the Russ Belville Show live on CannabisRadio.com. Then stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. We're right back in 2 minutes after we pay a few bills.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
Legal to listen to all over the world. We're just not sure about France. CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit MJBA.net for more details.
The Russ Belville Show. We're as much like Cheech and Chong as ordinary Americans are like the Three Stooges. Hey, Mo!
The smoke is rising, and the next crop of podcasts devoted to cannabis providers and enthusiasts are ready to be harvested. Welcome to the Cannabis Radio Network, founded by respected rainmakers who have been producing award-winning podcasts for over a decade. Industry headlines, business updates, medical reports, marketing, and e-commerce education rolled up perfectly for your consumption. Let's grow together. The Cannabis Radio Network. CannabisRadio.com.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Friday, March 18th, 2016. Oregon collected $3.48 million in marijuana sales tax revenue in the first months of the program this year, state officials said Thursday, exceeding original state projections and showing that the state is poised to have very robust marijuana sales. The tax revenue collected is even months earlier than expected, as after the passage of the 2014 Measure 91 legalization measure, the state wasn't expected to start tax sales until October of 2016. The state's financial impact statement mailed with every voter's pamphlet to every household in Oregon estimated that marijuana sales would generate between $17 million and $40 million when the program was implemented. The $3.5 million collected from just the first month of taxed flower sales shows that the state is likely to crush the upper end of the state's initial estimate. Since $3.5 million collected from taxed flower sales doesn't include any sales of infused edibles or any other marijuana products, Oregon will see greater tax revenues in the future. Damascus, Oregon residents couldn't have been clearer in November of 2014 when they voted overwhelmingly against a measure to legalize recreational marijuana. Nearly 6 in 10 Damascus voters cast ballots against Measure 91. When it passed, the Damascus City Council quickly moved to refer local opt-out measures to this November's ballot. But that was before it became apparent that Damascus might not be a city anymore by November. Voters in May appear increasingly likely to make Damascus the first Oregon city in 40 years to disincorporate. If that occurs, the newly dissolved Damascus would become part of unincorporated Clackamas County, governed by zoning regulations that took effect shortly after Damascus incorporated in 2004. Since nothing at the time specifically addressed marijuana, it wouldn't be outlawed now. County and city officials are scrambling to figure out what to do about that. The New Orleans City Council took up a measure Thursday dealing with the city's marijuana ordinance. The ordinance allows for a summons to be issued for simple marijuana possession in lieu of jail time. The council voted to approve the ordinance unanimously. A similar law has been in place since 2010, but it only applied to the first offense. The new ordinance creates a ticket structure for repeat offenses. Councilwoman Susan Guidry sponsored the ordinance. She said it gives officers the discretion to issue tickets instead of making an arrest. Guidry believes it will free up police resources. She's also calling it a social justice issue because of the disproportionate number of black citizens who are arrested on simple possession charges. The fine for simple possession can be up to $100. Fairbanks, Alaska's North Star Borough officials have voted to approve the borough's first conditional use permit for a marijuana business, paving the way to set up a pot farm in nearby Salcha. The Planning Commission's decision Tuesday came despite complaints from neighbors about traffic, odor, safety, and noise, the Fairbanks Daily News Miner reported. Frosty Farms, owned by Travis Christensen and Gerard Gall, will provide marijuana to retailers. Plans for the 2.5-acre property include 7 greenhouses and a warehouse for indoor pot growing. The area will be surrounded by a vegetated 50-foot buffer and a 6-foot fence. Patients and recreational smokers alike are hopeful that a new marijuana genome project will spark a greater understanding of the hidden genetics within today's modern cannabis strains. As most in our community are already aware, there are 3 specific species within the cannabis family: Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica, and Cannabis ruderalis. However, thanks to modern hybridization processes of crossbreeding different strains for their specific effects or phenotypes, the strain's ultimate name is more often based on its potential for marketing than its specific genetics. Mowgli Holmes, a microbiologist from Columbia University, will attempt to map the entire cannabis genome. Holmes's time-consuming and complicated research will involve scrutinizing samples of cannabis gathered from around the globe and throughout history. With over 1,500 of the 2,000 collected cannabis samples already entered into the program that plots out the cannabis DNA, consumers and cultivators alike will soon have a much better understanding of what exactly they are inhaling and growing. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Friday, March 18th, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
CannabisRadio.com keeps you in the know Monday through Friday on air and on demand with Cannabis Radio News, presented with the definitive worldwide news source, the Associated Press. Stay informed with exclusive news on all things cannabis. Cannabis Radio News, live weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, during the Russ Belville Show, or download the daily podcast exclusively on CannabisRadio.com, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. When breaking news happens in the cannabis industry, Cannabis Radio News delivers the details first.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Only on CannabisRadio.com. NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs.
Being green is good. Growing green is good. Making green is great. CannabisRadio.com.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPA's offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit NewEraCPAs.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Today in the Drug War Data Mines, we're taking a look at some interesting data from a company called Estately. They are a real estate company, so they've taken upon themselves to rank the United States 1 through 50 on what they call their marijuana enthusiasm. And to create such a thing, they've called the Marijuana Enthusiasm Index that catalogs 5 different categories having to do with marijuana for each of the 50 states and makes an overall score. Now, the top possible score you could get on this index is 500, and that's based on a score of 0 to 100 for each one of the categories. The categories are marijuana users per capita, cannabis-related Google searches, the legal status of cannabis, publicly expressed interest in marijuana, and affordability. Those are your 5 categories. And it'll probably come to no surprise to anybody out there that the legal marijuana states rank 1, 2, and 3 in this list, but one of the legal marijuana states ranks all the way down at 12th. It's quite interesting. The number 1 state is Colorado. Colorado comes up with a total score of 441 out of 500. It got a perfect 100 on marijuana users per capita, a perfect 100 on cannabis-related Google searches, a perfect 100 on its legal status, since it is legal, a 57 on its publicly expressed interest in marijuana, and an 85 in its affordability. So in the case of publicly expressed interest in marijuana, that 57 is close to the middle of the pack. The number 1 state for the publicly expressed interest in marijuana was, surprisingly, New Mexico. Had the most publicly expressed interest in marijuana. It ranked 4th overall in the standings at 326. As far as affordability goes, the state with the most affordable marijuana, not surprising to anyone who's been listening to this show, is Oregon. Oregon came out number 3 on the list overall. It got a perfect 100 for legal status and affordability, but only got a 36 in cannabis-related Google searches and a 38 in publicly expressed interest in marijuana. It got a 79 in marijuana users per capita. The number 2 state was nearby Washington State, which scored 81 in per capita, 79 in Google searches, 100 in legal status, only 21 in publicly expressed interest in marijuana, and an 89 in affordability. Your top 10 states then are Colorado, Washington, Oregon, New Mexico, Maine, Michigan, Rhode Island, California, Vermont, and Arizona. And the medical marijuana states are rounding out the rest of the top 20. We have to get all the way down to the 21st state, Ohio, before we find a state that is not currently a medical marijuana state. And actually, Ohio ranks ahead of Hawaii and New Jersey and Minnesota, states that do have medical marijuana. So it's an interesting ranking system. Looking down toward the bottom of the polls, we find the last 5 states, as far as the least amount of enthusiasm for marijuana, are Wisconsin at number 46, South Dakota at number 47, Utah at number 48, Iowa at number 49, and North Dakota at number 50, the least enthusiastic state about marijuana. North Dakota scored only a score of 50 out of the possible 500. Wisconsin at 46 scored 87 points, and the last 7 or 8 states all scored below 100 on this particular scoring system. The information can be found by going to OregonLive.com. Noel Crombie has written up this piece. And in the piece, the authors also make some notes about Oregon. They say that Oregon ranked 17th in pot-related Google searches because the state's collective marijuana knowledge is more nuanced, more rooted in the past, the 1960s. And that leads me to think that perhaps cannabis-related Google searches is not a really good way to be measuring a state's enthusiasm for marijuana, because perhaps the states that already have a great enthusiasm for marijuana have already educated themselves on the subject, and they don't need to be doing a lot of Google searching at this point anymore. We also find that Stately says, quote, marijuana is both legal and plentiful in Oregon, and it's also home to the cheapest weed in the country. Pot smokers make up 9.8% of the population, but maybe the other 90.2% just don't realize what a bargain it is in Oregon. There's your pot marijuana enthusiasm index as reported by Stately. California ranking 8th in the list with a score of 274. Alaska is all the way down at 12th in the list, which might be surprising considering it's a state that has full marijuana legalization. But its expense really hurt it in the rankings. It only got a score of 3 out of 100 in the case of affordability. And a lot of that owes to the fact that everything is more expensive in Alaska. So that's hardly fair. The marijuana-related Google searches in Alaska got a 53, and the marijuana users per capita got a 64. Vermont ranked second as far as the state with the most marijuana users per capita, second after Colorado.
Well, Lottie frickin' God!
Well, excuse me. I thought it was interesting. Happy 420 to our friends in the Mountain Time Zone. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about race and marijuana and how the cannabis industry can make up some reparations. Stay tuned.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Cannabis use isn't the only thing growing. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Get the latest updates on the Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking the Russ Belville Show on Facebook.
Chronicling the latest cannabis industry news and headlines.
Well, with 4 states with tax and regulate and the District of Columbia.
The state of cannabis.
Oh my God, it's refreshing. We have people that generally wouldn't speak on behalf of cannabis for fear of retribution, fear of losing your practices, fear of many of those things, and find ourselves in a place that we finally can.
Bringing you fact-based news and views and keeping listeners on the pulse of what's happening in the industry today. The state of cannabis. On demand anytime, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Mark Twain once said that when there's a gold rush, it's a good time to be in the pick and shovel business. Today, we look at the rapidly evolving markets in the marijuana green rush in our Cannabis Chronicles. There's an informative piece on BuzzFeed entitled, How Black People Are Being Shut Out of America's Weed Boom, that is a must-read for the marijuana movement. If it's a subject that interests you, and it should, you should check out minoritykannabis.org to learn more. The gist is that the legal marijuana world is a rich white man's playground after decades of the illegal marijuana world being the domain of black and brown people who bore the brunt of racist prohibition enforcement. As Michelle Alexander put it, white men get rich from legal pot, black men stay in prison. One major hurdle for the minority involvement in the newly legal cannabis industry is the high cost for getting licensed for cultivation operations and dispensaries. States may require outrageously high demonstrations of secured capital, like being able to show one has a $2 million letter of credit, before even applying for a license. Then there are non-refundable application fees in the tens of thousands of dollars. These kinds of requirements obviously favor white capitalists who are able to amass such fortunes in an economy that disfavors building minority wealth through historic practices such as real estate redlining and the legacy of slavery through Jim Crow that has left many black families with virtually no wealth. But the monetary hurdles are secondary barriers more indicative of systemic racism in general than anything particular to the marijuana movement. As Dr. Carl Hart put it, quote, "We can't expect one fledgling developing industry alone to solve this major problem in the United States, which the Republic has ignored since we came out of slavery. That's not even logical," end quote. Yes, we could write marijuana laws so that there aren't such enormous monetary barriers to entry, but that's not going to fix the black-white wealth gap, in other words.
Another hurdle that is specific to the newly legal cannabis industry, however, is the practice of disqualifying for licensure anybody who's had a conviction for being part of the previously illegal cannabis industry. Not only is this in effect racist, since black and brown growers and dealers were 4 times more likely to be busted in the illegal cannabis industry, but it's also counterproductive. Why would we want to shut out from the legal industry those who gained the requisite experience illegally? Why would we want to favor operators who are less likely to have real-world knowledge of how cannabis production, supply, marketing, and demand actually work? Obviously, we need to write marijuana laws so one's non-violent marijuana conviction isn't a barrier to getting licensure. We can also ensure that our laws don't contain vague coded references to judging an applicant's character, something that can work out against a minority applicant without being overtly racist enough to be called out. We can do more like my home state of Oregon and provide easy pathways and assistance to expunging criminal records of marijuana violations that are no longer illegal. But if I may offer a radical suggestion, we should take this concept further. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote for The Atlantic the excellent piece called The Case for Reparations, dealing how and why America owes African Americans payback on that 40 acres and a mule promise to make up for the horrors of slavery and Jim Crow. Now, solving that problem is way beyond my pay grade, but in my little slice of marijuana activism, may I offer a case for reparations in our domain? Let's make an affirmative action program for marijuana licensing that gives bonus points for licensure to applicants with prior nonviolent marijuana convictions. This program would then favor minority applicants indirectly, since they will be 4 times more likely than white applicants, generally speaking, to be able to accrue those bonus points. But it wouldn't be racially unfair, because a white applicant who'd been busted could get those points too. Now, critics of such a system would say that it rewards past law breaking. But isn't the point of legalization recognizing that those past behaviors weren't really evil or criminal? That calling them law-breaking was wrong? By promoting the previously convicted people for licensure, we'd be incentivizing people previously and currently involved in the illegal market to become legal operators who follow regulations and pay taxes. We'd be draining the best horticultural and sales talent from the illegal side of the ledger onto the legal side of the ledger. Now, some might say that such a system unfairly penalizes the savvy growers and dealers who avoided getting caught. But since that avoidance of law enforcement also has a racially favorable bias toward whiteness, it's not a complaint that's going to garner much sympathy. Yes, we're sorry you grew illegally for 20 years and scored lower than the 2-year grower who got caught. But your consolation prize is that you did no prison time and got to enjoy your prohibition profits on the outside. Such a system would begin to create an engine of wealth for communities of color, addressing a small piece of Coates' call for reparations. It could succeed without angering regressive whites by being a program that explicitly favors black and brown people. Prohibitionists who often like to play that, there's more liquor stores in the hood, when they play that card to fearmonger about legal pot shops, they'd get less traction with minority voters because they'd realize that the people in the hood would be owning and benefiting from those newly legal marijuana shops. Lawmakers, I think, like those no drug felons restrictions because they have a mistaken understanding of what drug dealers are. They think that they're criminal, evil masterminds looking to harm the public, instead of recognizing that they're just entrepreneurs no different than any other, aside from their product being illegal. If they have a chance to become legal entrepreneurs, they'll abandon the illegal side. And isn't that what we want to happen? Why should we incentivize those who've been criminal marijuana dealers to remain criminal marijuana dealers? All right, we're going to take a couple-minute break, and when we come back, we celebrate the 1-year anniversary seizure-free of little Alexis Bortell. My interview with her from Southwest Cannabis Conference and Expo is coming up next.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com.
The cannabis community is a diverse set of people from all walks of life. Conservative and liberal, black and white, straight and gay, rich and poor, and everyone in between. Learn more about the people we are freeing from adult cannabis prohibition in our Cannabis Community Chat.
Today for the Cannabis Community Chat, we go back.
Radical Russ here at the Southwest Cannabis Conference and Expo, where I am so pleased to be sitting down with the rock star of the show so far, Alexis Bortell. Hi, Alexis. You just delivered probably the most bombshell speech I've heard, and I do these events a lot. You had numerous standing ovations. There had to be a couple of thousand people listening to you. How'd that make you feel? Were you nervous?
I was nervous at first. It was a lot of work just studying the speech itself.
Yeah.
But it was actually really fun.
Was this your first time doing a big speech like this?
I had one other speech like this. It was in DFW. It was just, except it was outdoors.
Okay. And has anyone ever told you that you're really good at this? Like, I speak for a living, and I have no advice for you. You did such a great job. Is this something you want to keep doing?
Yes, I want to keep doing this because that's my talent. Like, I can speak in front of many and just go blank.
You do have a great talent for that. In fact, you even mentioned that you weren't going to stop your mission, even if you had to become governor someday. Do you think you might go into politics?
I may. I have no idea.
You might. That would be something interesting, I think. You also gave a mention to a friend of yours who's a friend of mine as well, Vincent Lopez, who left us last year. Do you think Vincent was watching? You think he's proud of what you've been doing?
I'm sure Vincent was watching.
Yeah.
I think he's really proud.
Can you tell us about some of the other kids that you're trying to help out with Team Alexis? You mentioned a couple up there on your speech.
Some of the kids, just like Haley and all the other patients, they had seizures or other disabilities as well, and they needed cannabis. They were refugees themselves.
Now, your use of medical cannabis, you mentioned how, Texas has this law that has low THC and high CBD. That didn't work for you, did it?
No, because I need a higher THC level, 15 to 1, I'm pretty sure, and Texas's law only allows a certain amount of THC.
That's right. And so you moved out to Colorado where you can get, whatever levels that you need. And you mentioned how many days you've been seizure-free now?
346.
You are, 20 days away from a full year or something like that?
Around that, yeah.
Around 19, something like that.
Pretty much a miracle.
That is a miracle. It's amazing. And what was it like for you trying to go to school when you had to worry about seizures all the time?
I had a lot of tardies. I had to go to the nurse's office practically every day.
Did it hurt your grades any?
Yes, it hurt my grades because sometimes I would miss tests.
Yeah. And now you've been almost a year seizure-free. How's school going now?
School now, it's way better because I have way less tardies. I hardly go to the nurse, basically.
That's great to hear. So obviously you want to come back home to Texas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you miss a lot of friends and family here?
Yep.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. So the only way you get to come back is if these legislators fix this law. So what do you tell them? How do you convince some of these people that are scared of it that they need to change the law?
I convinced them by just saying my story, just saying like how it helps many people and it's illegal in most places and we need to fix that.
You know, a lot of these legislators and some people are just afraid when they hear the letters THC. They think of the people who smoke joints and get high. It's nothing like that for your treatment, is it? You don't get any sort of weird feelings from it, do you?
No, it's medical. As far as I know, medical, just the THC part of it, it's basically what helps most people.
And it's in an oil form, right, that you're taking this?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. So you continue to fight with Team Alexis. We've got to get these legislators to change their mind. I heard your plans coming up now are going to be coming to the legislature quite often, right?
Yep.
Tell folks about what you're going to be doing here.
So I'll go every once in a while. I'll come back and forth from Colorado to here to talk to legislators about how this amount of THC won't help. We need a higher amount of THC. Legal.
And is it not just for kids that have seizure disorders, like other disorders as well?
Yes, like cancer and many others.
Yeah, Crohn's disease. There's all sorts of things that it could help. When you talk to other little kids, other kids your age in school, I mean, do you talk to them? Do they know anything about this? Is this weird to them?
Here in Colorado, I haven't told too many people.
Yeah.
But in Texas, pretty much the class knew, and I think it was kind of weird for them.
Yeah, to trying to figure out, you're having this disability, you're having these seizures, and wow, here's something that helps. It's got to be frustrating to think that, like you said in your speech, you're 10 years old, you figured this out. How come the adults can't figure it out?
They just need to research. That's all it comes to.
Does it feel strange to get so much attention, to have so many people, like after the speech, everybody wants to take their selfie, take their picture with you? Do you feel like a celebrity, like a rock star a little?
Yeah.
Yeah? You get the special back room, the green room with the chips and the sodas and all these cameras pointing at you? Kind of fun, huh?
Yes.
All right. Well, I think you are doing great work and so much good that you're bringing to this, because I think a lot of adults, when they hear it from adults like me, they may think I have some sort of trick up my sleeve.
Yep.
I'm trying to trick them. Obviously, you're not trying to trick anybody.
No.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. And do you have any emails or websites or anything like that to tell people about to help you out?
Yes, teamalexis.org. It's basically a Facebook site. It's just about how it's been going and how medical cannabis can help others.
That's amazing. Alexis, I know you are going to get this law changed in Texas, and a lot of people will have a lot of gratitude for you for helping them out, because like you said, you have this talent to speak for people, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are afraid to speak out. So congratulations and great work with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us. I'm really honored. I appreciate it. Have a great show.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be back with more from the Southwest Cannabis Conference and Expo right after this.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com. Helping ganjapreneurs grow.
Maui Wowie. Acapulco Gold. California Kush. Our strains stretch everywhere, too. This is the Cannabis Radio Network.
Are you playing an acoustic guitar but want to be louder without an amp? Try a resonator guitar. The fingerboard extension has National Resophonic and other resonators, square necks and round necks. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com. Go wild hog in the woods.
This is the Russ Belville Show, annoying Kevin Sabet since 2012.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Alexis Bortell. My apologies for not getting both channels online until about halfway through that, but glad I got that figured out for the future. We've got some more of Alexis Bortell for you. This is her keynote speech at the Southwest Cannabis Conference and Expo in front of a crowd of a couple thousand.
She is a Texan. She comes from a wonderful family. Unfortunately, she's been exiled to Colorado in order to treat her seizures with whole plant medicine. But she's here today to speak on behalf of many patients here in Texas. And we're very fortunate to have her. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Alexis Bortell.
Oh my gosh, I'm home. My name is Alexis Bortell, and I am a Texas medical refugee living in Colorado, but I am still a Texas girl. Before I get started, I wanted to ask for a moment of silence to remember one of my heroes, Vincent Lopez, and also Teresa, Tony, and all of the other patients who went to heaven this year. Thank you. Okay. Let's get this out of the way right now. Yes, I am probably the only kid standing in Texas right now who can say in front of thousands of people that I use medical marijuana every day, and my Republican parents are proud of me. This is me before epilepsy when I was 7. Back then, I was a normal kid, probably just like many of your kids. I had pet chickens, loved fishing, played golf, and yes, I spent as much time as I could hanging out with my sister and my friends. I was really lucky because I almost never got sick, which was good because I really hated going to the doctor. My life changed forever in July 2013 when I had my first seizure. There was no warning. I remember being tired that night, and so I laid down on the couch to take a nap while Mom and Dad folded clothes. The next thing I remember is kind of blurry. I remember seeing Avery crying and yelling, "Wake up, Alexis." And then I saw my dad reaching down before everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Dad was talking to a nice lady doctor who said they couldn't help me at her hospital, but they were sending me to Dallas Children's where they probably could help me. In the hospital, they stuck me with needles, put me in a tube that made loud banging noises, and then stuck a whole bunch of funny wires on my head that smelled terrible. When I finally did get to go home, my parents told me that I had something called epilepsy, and that I was going to have to start taking medicine every day. I had never taken a medicine every day, and after a few days, I started to feel really weird. My hands and legs would shake. The blackouts happened more, and I was sleepy almost all the time. I told my parents about it, and they said it should pass in a few weeks. It never did. The fog never went away. About a month later, I started 2nd grade at St. Joseph's here in Dallas, and it was really hard. My friends were still nice to me, but I could tell they knew something was wrong. Well, maybe it was obvious because I had to wear those wires on my head to school several times, but hey, they gave me cool backpacks, so it wasn't all bad. My doctors told me until we got the seizures stopped, I shouldn't ride a bike, go swimming, or even climb stairs with my classmates. Instead, I had a seizure buddy in my class who was special just like me, except she didn't have seizures. She just needed help carrying stuff because she had crutches. Every day I would carry her book back and make sure she would go everywhere with me to make sure I didn't fall, space out, or have a seizure. She was like a sister to me. I really miss her and hope she's okay. If she sees this speech someday, I just want to tell her, thank you for always helping me. At school, I was always afraid that I would have a seizure in front of my friends. It was very frustrating because my epilepsy was causing me to go to the nurse's office almost every day. I tried so many different medicines I lost count. Every night, Mom or Dad would stay up all night while I slept in case I had a seizure. After a while, I could tell they were getting frustrated because the medicines and doctors couldn't help me. One thing I remember hearing my dad say to my mom was, "What if we can't stop the next one?" I didn't know what that meant back then, but I do now, and to be honest, I kind of wish I didn't. Finally, after almost a year, Mom recorded a TV show for me and Dad. The name of the show was Weed 2 Cannabis Madness by Dr. Gupta. I didn't know it then, but that TV show would change all of our lives because someday it will lead us to a medicine that stopped my seizure monster. After talking to my Texas doctor, we all flew to Colorado where I met 3 more great doctors. They all agreed that medical cannabis might be able to help me and that it was worth a try. When we got back to Texas, we decided to try to get the laws changed. After many phone calls, we finally got a meeting with my state representative, Scott Turner from Frisco. At our meeting, he wasn't rude to me, but he did say he wouldn't help and then wrote a statement saying he had moral concerns and needed to talk to people, including fellow clergy, about cannabis medication. I remember thinking to myself, why doesn't he just call my doctors instead of my priest? But what did I know? I was just a kid. After this meeting, we started Team Alexis and kept meeting with legislators in Dallas and in Austin. I was starting to get a little frustrated until I met Representative Neistat, who offered lots of help and advice. It was so nice to finally meet a legislator brave enough to help me. He told me what I was doing was great and that no matter what happens, I should never give up. Unfortunately, my work at the Capitol ended because on February 4th, 2015, I had the worst seizure of my life. I remember it was Dad's night to watch me while I slept, so he was sitting beside the bed working on his computer when I went to sleep. Later, I woke up in the living room on a stretcher surrounded by firemen. They rushed me to Children's Hospital in an ambulance, and during the appointments that followed, my doctors and my parents decided that it was time for me to move to Colorado so I can try medical cannabis. After our move, Dad traveled back and forth from Texas to Colorado while he tried to help get a law passed that would help all patients and not just a few chosen ones. On March 4th, 2015, I finally got my first treatment of Haley's Hope cannabis oil. I have to say, it wasn't what I expected. With all the arguing in Texas, I thought it was going to be a big deal, but it turns out it was just a brown oil in a glass bottle that smells like a skunk. No, it doesn't taste great, but it doesn't make me feel funny or sleepy like all the pills I used to take did. I went 33 days seizure-free when I started Haley's Hope Oil. I got the flu and had a seizure on day 33, which was a bummer, but hey, 33 days was much better than the old 3-day record I had on pharmaceuticals. My doctor told us to increase the amount of THC I was taking, and I am happy to say that the seizures went away, and today I am 346 days seizure-free. Using only THC and Haley's Hope. That's right, no more pills. My life is so much better now. I am almost a year seizure-free. My school and teachers know I take medical cannabis and they support me. I get to meet lots of patients, and I filmed 3 national TV specials that will air this year. But most of all, I can do all the fun things I couldn't do in Texas. I can ride a bike almost every day, but the coolest thing is that I can finally go to sleepovers at my friends' houses. So far, I've been to 4, and it's amazing. Oh, yeah. There is one more big thing I've done. To celebrate 300 days seizure-free, we went rock wall climbing with ropes and everything. It was very scary, but my sister Avery and I did it without quitting. I never thought I would make it a year without a seizure, but now it looks like I might. If I do, I need your help. I really want to go to Disneyland, but it isn't in Colorado, so I need all of you to help me convince Mom and Dad to take us. It isn't all happy, though. Team Alexis is made up of many sick people. Nova, Hannah, and I are all Texas medical refugees who need THC. Yes, I said THC to help us. Texas's low THC law won't bring any of us home, and we need all of you to remind your legislators of that. There is also the hard part of saying goodbye to people you care about and love. I have lost many friends in Team Alexis this year, and it is very hard. Vincent Lopez, who mentored me and taught me to be nice to politicians, even when they say silly things, went to heaven this year before we finished fixing Texas's laws, and I was crushed. Even today, after a couple of months, I miss him every day, but I know in my heart he would never leave me, and that helps me keep going even when I'm sad. I went to Austin to go to his funeral, and several people told me they were sure I would finish his work. Vincent, if you are listening, I swear we will finish your work even if I have to become governor someday. While I've been working on Team Alexis, I have realized that my story is only one of many. There are thousands of medical refugees out there who just want to go home. Team Alexis isn't just about me. It is about all of us. I say that every patient matters a lot because it is true. I am no more special than anyone else, and epileptic patients have no more right to medical cannabis than any of you. Even at 10, I can understand how crazy it is that we trust our doctors with our lives, but we don't trust them with a plant. I'm sorry if it offends you to hear me say this, but the law doesn't make any sense, and it is time to change it. I only hope that if a kid can figure this out, then so can a legislator. Before I go, I want to send a message to all Texas legislators and Governor Abbott. I know you thought passing a low THC bill would bring the refugees home, but it won't, and it probably never will. I will be making many day trips around Texas and to Austin as Team Alexis prepares for its next session. I will keep calling you and hope to meet you all. Without your help, I will never be able to live in Texas again, and neither will my refugee friends. Think about it. What if I were your daughter or granddaughter? Would you help me then? Also, to the many people here who are on our team, I want you to know that I appreciate everything you do to help us. Only by working together will we finally end Texas's war on patients, and trust me, together we will end it. Finally, to the people of Texas who are depending on us to get these laws fixed, I promise you that I will never quit fighting for you all. Someday, I will come home for good, and when I do, I will bring all the Texas medical cannabis refugees back with me. Texans, remember, our fight is not over. It has just begun, and I will not hide. I love you all, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you. I love you all.
That's 10-year-old Alexis Bortell speaking at the Southwest Cannabis Conference and Expo to a standing ovation of over 2,000 attendees and local news cameras, radio reporters, print reporters. This girl is a force to be reckoned with. Mark my words, you'll be hearing plenty more from her in the future. Well, folks, that's all the time we got for Hour 1. Stay tuned. Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio is coming up next. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. And then coming up at 5 o'clock, we've got the Stoner Jesus Show coming to you live right here on CannabisRadio.com. For everyone here at the Scottsdale headquarters of Cannabis Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.